will receive some questions. And it's not complete if someone doesn't have a question, so you must ask a question. I don't know who, but someone must ask a question. And he has some CDs and some other intellectual properties available if you are interested.
And please understand, within the time that I took, quite naturally, I couldn't cover everything. And I will share this, sir, if you don't mind. I went to see, when Malcolm X came out, after reading the book, and I went to see the movie, I was very distorted because of the fact that everything I read in the book was not up on the screen. And they were saying, wait a minute, we only got an hour and 50 minutes. They can't put the whole book on the screen. So I bring that up to say that I wish I could just cover the whole, but I guess that's why we have questions and answers.
Well, I'll just start. What made you select Frederick Douglass other than the physical likeness versus perhaps Booker T. Washington or Martin Delany or some of the other figures?
Good question. And I love when I'm asked that question because of the fact that, believe it or not, as simple as it may sound, and as odd and weird as it may sound, I had no idea that I would be portraying Frederick Douglass. And I say that because, you know, as a motivational speaker, that's what I really am. My mind is on my next engagement as a speaker. But this particular morning I got up and I'm brushing my teeth. And I hear, out of nowhere, I hear Frederick Douglass, Frederick Douglass, Frederick Douglass. And I looked around in the room. At this time I was married. I looked around to see was anybody else in the room. And there was no one else there. So I took it as a calling. And believe it or not, that afternoon, I went downtown to the Performing Arts Center in Tampa, where I reside, and I reserved a theater. And within a week, I was putting on the show Frederick Douglass, and that was back in 2009, and here we are 10 years later. And I will state that my first engagement, ladies and gentlemen, this is my cheat sheet. I stood there and I read the whole cheat sheet for an hour and a half. And there were 50 people in the audience. And believe it or not, they got up and gave me a standing ovation. And I was like, wow. But that next year, I mastered it, and here we are. So I am very gracious that when the call came to perform as Frederick Douglass, I ran with it. I will state also that I do have a career as an actor. I don't know if anyone ever seen the HBO original programming of The Wire. I'm in season 3 of The Wire. I started acting in Sequest that came in. They used to come on back in 1989, and the list goes on and on and on. So, and this has been one of my acting careers, if you will, that I've done. Question?
How do you prepare to get in character of Frederick Douglass?
That's another good question.
Will you repeat the question?
Oh yes. How do I prepare to get in character as Frederick Douglass? Well, believe it or not, I look at a lot of YouTube and other individuals who have come before me portraying Frederick. So I take a lot of cues from them. And like I said, I'm a born actor. So I just add that in. And then I just add, you know, what I hear from them and try to get the voices and knowing that I have the right voice for it. And then I just take it from there. And of course, me looking like Frederick helps a lot too.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
As a child or a teenager, could you have seen yourself doing this today?
That's another good question. Sorry, I'm getting a little bit emotional. I never knew that when I was a child and the torment that I was going through as a foster child. And all the physical abuse that I endured. If it was today, I'm sure that the guardians would have been incarcerated for what they did to me and what they took me through. I will say this, that I recall maybe about 7 years old looking at the Ed Sullivan Show. And when he introduced James Brown, believe it or not, I knew that's what I wanted to do with my life. Despite the pain, the beatings, and everything I was going through, I wanted to be like James Brown. I wanted to be a dancer. I wanted to be on TV. But to answer your question, as a child, no. As a teenager in the South Bronx, because of the physical abuse that I was still enduring, I'm just letting this out. I hope you don't mind. I was a gangbanger. I was the vice president of a gang in the South Bronx. And my great-grandmother, who was a Pentecostal, she used to talk to me all the time, and she would call me Junior, and she'd say, "You're going to be something in life. I believe you're going to be somebody who's going to give, and you're going to help other people." And quite naturally, at that age, you're like, "Oh, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about." But here we are. And this, like I said, you know, I met Frederick Douglass' great-grandson, Frederick Douglass III. I met him back in 2002 in Baltimore. I had no idea that this was in my future. And just to let you know, Baltimore, that's where I'm originally from. I'm from Baltimore, and that's where I endured a lot of my pain. So if you ask me, I think it's a perfect fit, because Frederick was a slave, and I was sort of kind of like a slave. Frederick rose, I rose. So I think it's a perfect fit. What you think?
Yes. Got time for one more question.
Yes. Thank you.
How has your life changed? How has your life changed since 10 years ago when you started your journey portraying?
Immensely. Immensely. I'm not ashamed to say this. Yes, I am college educated. I got my high school diploma when I was 21. I'm ex-military. But I got my college degree when I was 40. That was back in '96. Again, I didn't take on this role until 2009 to here we are. It's had such a greater impact on me because it's given me more significance to who I am as a black man, as a speaker, as if you want to call it an activist, and one who is out to not just protect my rights, but to look out for others and their rights. And also I'm a motivational speaker. I spend a lot of time with youth, training them, and what I said earlier about being a gentleman, I live to be a gentleman. Young men, especially young black men, my voice to them is to inspire them, to keep them on, like y'all say, to keep them woke, keep them out of the issues that's going to take them down. For the women, for the young girls that are out there, my word to them is, you know, you're beautiful, you are a gift. Carry yourself as a gift. Carry yourself with all the beautiful talents that you have within you. And don't allow anyone who doesn't have your best interest to step in your life and take you down the drain. And then for everybody in general, I don't care if you're black, white, Hispanic, gay, whatever, you know, we have a purpose here. So live your purpose to the fullest. And eventually, you will get to that pinnacle. And when you look back on your life with this stuff called gray hair, hopefully you can look back and you can enjoy what you see of your life. And even where you are now, hopefully you can have the audacity, if you're in your 20s, have the audacity to step up and look at yourself and say hello to you in your 40s, in your 50s. If you're in your 40s or 50s or what have the audacity to go 10 years ahead of you and just shake your hand. Because that's just an indication, and that gives you a sight for you to work hard for. So that when you do get this stuff called gray, and yes, I do brag because I'm 62, healthy, and you know, I just went to the doctor the other day and he said, "Oh, Dowridge, you're gonna live, so don't worry." You know, so, and just love people in general. That's what I do. I love people in general. And whatever I can do to help, that's my mission. So, 2019, here I am.
So just in closing, as I open up for you, again, I want to make the point that this is one of the reasons we celebrate, because you can see this is an American story. Frederick Douglass is an American story, and it doesn't have to be isolated for February. And his book, the narrative of Frederick Douglass, My Freedom, My Bondage, My Freedom, they are, some of you may have read them in high school. A lot of times they are on the AP reading list and things. You have been just a tremendously wonderful audience and things like that. And, you know, I just know from my own personal experience, you just take these little moments. You never know where they would register with you and play back at another time. Thank you. Continue to grow, continue to read. Thank you. Please take time and look around and review anything, and he'll be here for a few minutes. Thank you very much.
If you may have to know the class, you need ASAP. I have a 12:30 class, so you need to see me ASAP during my class.
Just to know that you know, I do have the books and DVDs here if you're interested.
Thank you.